Welcome, everyone. I'm Rich Pasqua, and this is Web3 Unpacked in the studio with Daria Bogatyreva. And we're happy to have her, and she's from Wert. And we talked to George, your partner, last week. We had a really good conversation. You and I have been chatting back and forth, and we finally got together because you're in town for NFT NYC. And we're going to have a good conversation around crypto payments and DAOs even. You know, that's kind of near and dear to both of our hearts. And I know you're very interested in it. And I think our audience would love to learn a little bit more. So welcome, Daria.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's my first time in New York. And so I'm very excited to be first time in New York and on your podcast. So it's double the excitement. From what I've seen in NYC NFT, the projects are getting more complicated. I think it's the new wave of what is happening in Web3, because many projects are taking longer time to develop and actually to think through. So some of them have been cooking for some time and are only ready now. And so I was very, very glad to see that these projects are on display there. So for example, the one that we've partnered with, we did a warranty for NFT, and we're the first ones to implement it actually. And the guys called Avata, they have been persuading the underwriters to do warranty for NFT for 3 years, and only now it is possible to actually do that. So anything that is connected, like crypto and fiat and regulators, is like takes ages, and I'm very happy to see it finally be here in New York.
Awesome. Yeah. And, you know, we've been interacting with different folks, either they've been on the show or not, and what they're interested in as far as what's happening in New York right this week, actually. And yeah, some of the side events are pretty funky. The projects, like peeling back the layers of all these projects that you probably have been following, which you just said, is really interesting because, you know, when I see NFTs, I see, you know, the original NFTs were kind of like the gateway to kind of understanding why they're important and ownership, and, you know, also a means of transacting and full communities and actual platforms based on this. It's really, really cool to see that it's actually going deeper into the idea of utility, right?
Yeah, totally.
And you know, creating autonomous type of environments, and there's so many things you can bake into it. We have a client, Andromeda Protocol, that we've worked with for years, and they started off the same way. And actually, Cody Marks Bailey, who is the CEO or the founder of Andromeda, he is the actual one of the co-creators of the ERC 721 protocol.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he is a super cool guy, super chill. And he's got extreme, and he doesn't even like the word non-fungible tokens. He doesn't even like it.
Why?
Which is, you know, I think he thought, you know, the non-fungible part was a big sticking part for him. Why is it non-fungible? He goes on to it. I'll have to do another show with him, you know, unpacking that for sure. But interesting group. They're basically creating an OS so that you can drag and drop codeless style, create your own NFT quasi applications that work for your organization, whether it be automation or creating contracts or executing on contracts or supply chain type of situations. Really, really cool. And that's really when I kind of got the understanding that it's really not about the Bored Apes Yacht Club. You know, it is cool and it's fun and we all love it, but the utility behind it is really key. So yeah, it's fascinating. So we met with George, which was great. We learned a lot about Wert but really, like, what's a quick, just for our audience, just to remind them, like, what is Word about?
So first of all, Wert is a German for value. Oh. So it is important because we try to build a payment module for NFTs that is also in alignment with Web3 principles. So when we are building it, we try to keep it decentralized as possible, and to keep it on chain. So we do a lot of innovation there. So I would say Wert is the platform for these innovators in Web3 space, but at that, like, for that stage of their development, when they finally want the common audience, like the common people outside in the streets, to finally try the service, and they want them to feel comfortable and safe while buying their first NFT or taking part in DeFi or whatever the utility might come up in the future.
And I love it because, well, it actually allows people to pay with fiat or credit card, like everyone knows how to do right now. And you guys behind the scenes, literally in just a couple of clicks, it's really, I would say go to the Wert's website and check out the demo they have there. It's really super simple. You're converting to crypto, and then it's up to them on how they handle their tokens and whatnot. But it is really quite a very seamless on-road, and I think it's important from an adoption standpoint. That's how we're going to get more people into it. So awesome, and thanks for sharing that. And you're a co-founder, and I'm sure you do a lot of things. What's part of your everyday?
I would say from the very beginning, I was like more of a strategist and a philosopher, because I would dive really deep into things and research it for a while before I come up with a new thing, an idea. And it's usually it happens that it's really obvious for me, and I'm like, oh, we need to do this because this and that. And George is like, actually, it's a good idea, but no one does it. And I should look into it. Yeah. And then we look into it together, and then we need to do that. And that is basically how the Wert was created. I'm not sure what kind of story George told you, but we worked in marketing in his previous company. I worked in marketing, and we visited the Web3 Summit in 2019. And it has like a very unique atmosphere because most of the people visiting it were developers and I would say kind of geeks that are really into the technical part of it. They were discussing code and they were discussing privacy and security, and they didn't really care about mass adoption or something like that. They wanted like the big thing. And it was so different to the atmosphere at other conferences, which were about buy this new token, get to this thing early, I don't know, earn and whatever.
Just pump.
Just profit from it. So we visited that thing, and I was thinking that this is very cool what they are building, and it definitely will be the new hype. But they are building like there is no fiat money. And no one was thinking about how they help new users to get onboarded into what they're building. And many founders at that time had about like 30 users, and they were very excited about it. So they were telling like, our protocol does this, and we have 30 users, and we are planning to get to 1,000 in 6 months, and this is like huge. So we were thinking that this is like something to watch, and we should really think about it. So basically, this is how Wert was created.
I love it because you're bridging old world to new world, which in any mass kind of like big evolution, or even revolution, if you want to call it, evolution of technology, money, finances, anything, you do need to kind of create those proper bridges so people can get on and experience what you're experiencing. And I really like the idea that you guys early on saw kind of the white space, the gap. You saw problems, and conflict or hurdles are kind of the impetus for innovation. So I think that's really cool, and it's a great story, and it's a really cool product that's starting to be adopted by very large brands and different corporations as we speak. So Daria, one of the things that you and I have been chatting about a bit, that's near and dear to both of us, is the idea of DAOs, or decentralized autonomous organizations. And a lot of people don't really understand what it means, and how it could be used. And I think it's like probably need about 5, 6, 10, 20 podcasts to cover the gamut to all this stuff. And it is, to your point earlier, it's a philosophical rabbit hole that you kind of go into, and you're like, wow, this is, at first you're like, well, why would I need to use this for my company or my organization or anything else? And then you start questioning it, and then you hear more chatter about it, and you start to kind of dig into it. And you realize, just like NFTs, it goes much deeper, and it has more of a profound, it could have a profound impact on organizations, governments, and complete countries, for that matter. In different industries, from finance to healthcare, who knows? What drew you to the idea of DAOs, and why do you think it's important?
So it's an interesting question, because I would go back to the same event. I think it was kind of life-changing for me, because there were like some master classes that they were holding, and there was a group of people drawing something on a whiteboard and had a very heated discussion. And I just kind of sat near them, because I wasn't participating, just to hear like what's going on. And the question that they were discussing were like, I don't know how to say it. It's very unique to hear this kind of thing. They were saying, so if we give them tokens, and the voting is based on the amount of tokens you have, then this is a system that is very easily hijacked. You can basically like buy the majority, and you just overthrow the existing regime kind of
Which
thing.
is pretty much what we have today.
Yeah.
Right?
So it basically means that the rich will have more voting power, and they were like trying to find some way to avoid that. And they were discussing about the possibilities. Spoiler, they didn't find a way. And I was thinking, whoa, but it is like the problem of like humanity. It's not something that can be just resolved like that within 2 hours in a masterclass. But the thing is that I was so excited that it was discussed at all.
Yeah. And
that there are actually people that care about it, and they try to mathematically or in any other way solve this. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is how I got to know. And then I'm like, what are they discussing? And DAO. And there was also there was a speech by Maker DAO. They were explaining like how it works, and I'm like, whoa, this is unbelievable that these people really not just thought about doing that, but they actually started it, and it was already functioning at that time. So yeah, I was super impressed, and yeah, I'm still watching this very carefully, like what's going on in that space.
Yeah. And again, the idea of philosophy comes up for me personally a lot, and it seems like for you too, because every time I see, the advent of cryptography and the adoption of cryptography into the idea of blockchain and crypto and all that brings up and one of the terms I use quite often is the trusted web. Web3 is the trusted web. And what does that mean? It means there are no humans in between to make mistakes, whether intentional or just accidental. And what it does is it actually creates this trust bond that eliminates any corruption. And I think people have a hard time understanding that two people actually can transact, whether you're selling tokens between each other or a house or a car. That blew my mind. And then it throws me into like the idea of DAOs is that a group of people can be self-governing without the interference of external governments or any kind of external audiences. And if you don't want to belong to it, you can just opt out and leave whenever you want. That brings up so many philosophical questions to me. And I see these technologies as they are adopted more and more, it will shift society. It will shift people's thinking. And that just blows my mind. And every time I read something, I'm like, oh yes, this needs to happen now. And it gets a little frustrating, but it's still exciting. And because like you were saying before, Daria, you're just seeing after years, some of these NFT projects really kind of come to light, if you will. But yeah, it opens up more questions for people sometimes than it does provide answers. But the answer is there. We just, as humans, have to make sense of it. So
yeah, that's very deep.
Yeah, so I didn't mean to get too crazy with that, but this is why I think it's the most exciting, sometimes overwhelming period in history. You had the mechanical evolution or revolution. You have the digital age and everything else, and now it's the age of information and whatnot. I think it's going to be the age of trust. It's the one thing that's missing from society right now. How do you trust someone unless we're family or I know you on a very deep level? It really is very difficult to do. So yeah, this excites me, and I love kind of peeling back the onion and almost running simulations. I'm sure you do similar things. Like if we implemented this in a government, not even the whole government, just a slice of something, maybe a social program, what would the effects of that be? That's profound. Once you really start to understand what it can do and the balance it can bring, right? So I think we were edging into the discussion, and this is so fascinating, Daria. And I know you've been talking about this a lot and kind of really documenting your thoughts on the idea of what's happening in France, right? And how they might adopt something like a DAO to make decisions or nationwide decisions on, say, their pension plans, and then you could, if that works, you can adopt it for other types of scenarios or government scenarios. What are your thoughts on that? Where is that going?
So first of all, you said that trust is really important, and from what I'm seeing, I don't really think that people see that in their everyday lives, that there is any issue with trust at all. They know that they generally don't trust governments, they don't trust corporations, they know it for sure. Sometimes they don't trust people they don't know, sometimes they don't even trust people companies, they know. Yeah, but basically people trust platforms, kind of, so they're getting used to it, we're getting used to it, and DAO is basically a more autonomous way, like a more autonomous platform, where so this is what I think people should understand about that. If someone is to learn about what it is and whether they need to use it or to look at it, so I would say that this is a way to organize a platform for anything that is self-governed and that no one person or one entity can just change while you are using it. So this is where the trust is needed. You need to trust that nothing changes while it is in the process of being used. So for example, we decide on some common usage of money, for example, we gather the money, we say, okay, we need to buy this thing for the community, and we need to trust that while in the process, the decision is not being changed. So this is like the easiest way, I would say, to understand why like a certain group of people needs it. And the usage of DAOs, like the successful examples, are around the cases that are very, how to say it, that people can easily agree upon. So it is exchanges, lending platforms, DeFi. So this is something that is not controversial and people can easily agree upon. And I would say that if we think about the usage of it for broader society, like do we need a city council to manage a dog park?
Right. I would love to see it just start in that size, small, bite size. Let's try it out in Central Park. Let's just get a group of people who really care about the environment that they live in, their dogs, and taking care of things, create a small community. I love that. Start small, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, from what I imagine, for example, if a group of people decide to manage their dog park in the neighborhood, and what they know is that they want, I don't know, more. What do they actually have in the dog park? I don't know, more trees or more benches, less
water
benches,
bowls, fences.
Yeah, fences like for dogs to play. Something.
You know, do we want to put little doggy duty bags, dispensers?
Yeah,
who knows?
Environmentally friendly bags or something like that. So they know what they want, but as people are not really used to managing resources, and they're used to government managing their resources for them, they don't really understand the odds of doing anything.
Right.
I wouldn't say like they don't understand at all, but there is no transparency about it. So I would say the first challenges that people managing a dog park would face is that they will actually know how much something costs and how difficult it is to actually make it happen. So there is some company that produces these bags, the other company is producing the fences. It's hard to find them right now. This one is cheaper, this one is more expensive. If they get a fence, they don't get this thing, other thing.
Vote on it.
Yeah. So the thing is that what would be cool to do is to actually have a list of dependencies and to vote for something actually knowing what you're voting against at the same time. So if we, for example, I don't know, adopt the neighboring territory of, I don't know, kindergarten for the dog park, then kids don't have place to play. And these are decisions which are made by the government. And we are all used to saying that, well, government is bullshit, it's horrible, they're doing all the wrong things, but they're actually making decisions and they're weighing them in. And they need to, like, people need to start seeing how the decisions are being made. That's what I was thinking. So
exposure, right? So exposure to the decision-making process and inclusion, right? So include, if you don't want to be included, maybe you walk your dog there every day, but maybe you don't really want to be included in this whole thing. And you're okay with the community making decisions for you, and that's okay. You can opt out. But now you have the choice of actually participating in it and actually prioritizing certain.
Yeah, prioritizing is the key.
Exactly. Yeah, right? And that's how it starts, right?
Yeah, you can do something, but later, or you can do this and not this. Yeah, prioritizing is the key. So where was I with this? The government thing. So as I was saying, no transparency can be a problem, and for the members of the DAO or the DAOs that exist right now, they actually know the money they are managing and what kind of decisions they are making. So, and there is no such transparency for the countries or even for cities. And so today, before this podcast, I was trying to actually find the how the decision about the pension plan was made in France, and I couldn't find. Like, the only thing that is being discussed in the press is that, well, the people are getting older, they live longer, and it's not good for budget to keep it like that. And there are less people that are working, so it's not good, and we need to do that. But it's not how decisions are made. So anyone who runs the business knows that it is numbers.
Right.
And if it's not possible for budget, you need to know how much not possible.
Right. And where the funds are going, where certain social programs, even in America, Social Security, it sounds great. We all contributed to it. But theoretically, my generation could be the last to actually see that. I'm not sure if my kids or anyone else in the next generations will participate or actually see funds when you're 65 years old, right? Similar situation, I think that will come up. And the idea of DAOs is like collective decision making. And again, you can opt out, but if you're participating in it, you're seeing the data that's popping up. You're seeing, Macron wants to use X amount of funds to invest. Where are you investing? Is it the NASDAQ? Or is it commodities? Is it blockchain, crypto? Where is the money going? And how risky is it? You can vote on risk. You can vote on the idea of taking your funds. Maybe you just use it as a bank, and the government, they can't touch it, and you get exactly what you put in. Or let's try and maximize our money and put it to work for ourselves, like any good investor would do. Where is it going? What's the returns? What's my statement? And everything is, to your point, 100% transparent. And now you're part of it. Now there's no questions.
Yeah, and the other thing is that how politics work is that we do not vote for actual decisions. We just vote for,
people to
options.
Make our decisions.
Yeah, like, do we like this? Do we like this? Is this like morally better?
Right.
But it is not possible to tick all the boxes. So what I'm thinking is that as like how government was working for all, like, I don't know, past several hundred years, comes from when people couldn't really physically make it to the voting point, and they have to have delegates, someone to say a word for them, and it totally made sense at that point in time. But now we actually have likes in Instagram, Facebook. We know how to vote for what we like, and we can actually understand if the decision should be made. Like, we can, like, I don't think that people are little kids who cannot understand that you cannot have steak and, I don't know, a whole chicken for dinner. Just because you cannot eat these two things, you will be full before you will eat second, right? So yeah, I think that there is a way through Web3 and DAOs to kind of realign this model of how we make decisions together with people. And so as DAO is actually a forum to manage something together. Do you agree? Is it like as a short version of
Absolutely.
it?
It is. It's managing whatever. It could be anything, a dog park or Social Security or
exchange. So I would say that government is basically a way for a collective to manage territory they are living on and make decisions collectively. So it's just a DAO, but an outdated DAO.
Right.
So if this is a DAO and the other thing is a DAO, then we can innovate if we understand how it works. So what I was thinking is lately, looking at French situation, I was thinking that, for example, now we are voting for politicians. We are voting for thought leaders. We think, oh, these people are saying the right thing. This is good for me as some target audience, and I will vote for them. But I don't actually see like what are the other options, and I don't understand sometimes what are the problems that they're trying to solve. So what if we, instead of voting for politicians, voted for problems to solve? Like, we cannot tick all the boxes, as I've said. What if we have problems with, I don't know, health organizations, we have problems with pension, we have problems with poverty, or I don't know, homeless people is a big problem in France. Like, from what I've heard from the locals, they say, oh, this is a big problem, we need to do something with it, it's not okay for people to live in the streets, how we cannot do anything about it. And this is very moral thing to say, but as a management thing, we need to understand how we can do that, right? So first of all, we could just give people a way to vote on problems that they want to be solved. And the other thing, what I was thinking just today, is that as we have now language processing models, we can actually ask everyone on their like whole opinion about, like, you know, feedback, almost like Trustpilot for countries. We can ask them, like, how do you like it living here? What problems do you have? And if we process everything, we have some kind of a data set that we can show back to people and say, so like 60% of you are concerned with this thing, and 30% of you concerned with this thing. So let's vote once again for all this thing, because maybe you didn't know about the other problems and now you want to reconsider. Now we vote again. And after we vote, certain people that work on policies and, you know, research of the situation, they research the problem that people have voted for, and they say, okay, we have this, and we have like 10 types of solutions. And then we just vote for solutions. We don't vote for politicians anymore. Like, we could do that, actually. And I would say that.
But then what would happen to all the oligarchs? And the rulers, the rich rulers, what would happen?
I
love it.
I hope they will be fine.
I love this whole idea. Vote on the issues. Prioritize and vote on the issues.
It's agile
not
for
the
countries.
person, not their haircut, not their skin color. I love it. How utopian of you. I see it, and that's the fair and balanced part of it, you know, that I love. You know, one thing that I've been really getting into lately, and I think this is a sweet spot for Twitter, and I know there have been under fire by everyone on the planet, like it or not, Twitter Spaces. I've tuned in night after night to some of the most introspective, like outrageous, smart conversations about politics, governance, technology, art, design, everything. And it gets detailed and it's philosophical at times, but you hear lots of interesting people, and the rooms are fairly curated, but they're open to everyone, and you can opt to speak if you want, and everyone's got a voice. And it seems to be, it gets heated at times, but I'm surprised at how civil it actually is. And it becomes a town hall. You could have those happen. Those could lead to decision-making and prioritization, and they're entered into the DAO. Now they're entered into the larger arena at that point. Super fascinating how all these little mechanics can work together.
Yeah, it's funny how, like, you would say, the first thing you replied is like, what happens to oligarchs? And this is what usually happens. Like we say, oh, but it's not possible. People cannot agree on anything. And then we have like a real life example of people actually like behaving in a very, like normal way and agreeing on things. So I wouldn't say it's not really possible. It's just something that's standing in the way. And from my, I would say, utopian perspective, I would say that the thing is standing in the way is lack of information. Yeah, because what people in France are saying that we do not agree, this is not a way to make decisions, like one person cannot make decision against parliament, against people, against their interests. It's not okay. So they just want to be heard. And this is why it all happens. They just try to be as loud as possible. And with some other mechanism, maybe we don't need to be loud. Maybe we can finally turn to actually asking people. It's like when you're building a product, what do you do first? You go to your customers. You say, how do you feel about this?
What works, what doesn't work for you? Where are your pain points?
Exactly.
What's going on?
So this is kind of agile for countries.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Agile for countries.
Why don't you ask people? They like not in a way where they're shouting and all. But before it actually happens, why don't you just ask them and actually listen to them?
Yeah.
Is it too utopian? No, I think it's a good way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there are some people, and maybe there are mechanisms or phased approaches to certain things. You could be an individual, like a lot of people in America and Europe, all over the place, they're vocal all the time, whether it's Twitter or any other platform, social platform, they're vocal about it. Some are a little more polite than others, a little bit more educated than others. Those are going to be the people that are going to start these conversations, and they're going to start the seed, right? And you might be, 70 years old, living in France, and you know what? I just don't have the energy or the time to dedicate to this stuff. But you're able to read the crypt notes, the kind of the meeting notes from a lot of other people's voices. And you brought something up earlier, even before we jumped on the podcast, is the idea of using AI. And it's not about putting a machine into a thing. It could have a set of governance models that it learns from, and it would learn from the community and help to make decisions. This is where the audience is going. This is where they're not going. This is what's been shelved or deprioritized, if you will. That's fascinating.
Yeah, so the other interesting thing, connected to AI is when you organize a debate about some problem, what people tend to do, and it's just normal psychology, that people confuse problems and probable solutions. Mm. So instead of actually saying what is happening to them, they tend to say, you should stop doing this. And the other part, which maybe relies on doing this, they say, no, we will not do that. Not possible. This is how the conflict starts. Mm. But there is no conflict in a personal experience of a person. So if you, instead of saying you should do this, it should be possible for people to say, this happens to me. So as you say, some 70-year-old person, let's not take France, USA or some other country. So for example, a person should not be knowledgeable in how government operates or how economy works or whatever, but they certainly do know that they have been visiting some post office for 20 years, and now it is not there anymore, and they have to do this and this. I don't know, send letters or whatever they whatever they were doing at the post office. Now they have to find another way. They have to take transport. Maybe they I don't know. It's hard for them to drive a car. Whatever, I don't know. But it will be personal experience, and it is not lie. It is never a lie. It is what just happens to people. Mm. So you cannot say it is not true that you have this problem. You can say, oh, it's hard to resolve it at the moment, but at least you gather the feedback. So this is why I'm thinking that before that, it is not possible to listen to every person on the planet. It's just not possible. Like if government is like group of, I don't know, 1,000 people, you cannot listen to all the people in the country. But with AI, they can summarize. They can say like this percentage of people complained about this, and it will be like in a very nice, structured in a very nice way, which I think we all have tried with ChatGPT, like rephrase this, and it can rephrase people from different backgrounds with different way of saying things. So I think that this is what we should be thinking about. Like it can really change something.
Yeah, absolutely. So many little nuances in there. I love the idea of like AI helping to structure a conversation, structure ideas and ways forward. I love the agile government. I love that. I'm gonna have to borrow that at some point. But I think it goes well beyond that. And to your point, it may be an older person in Europe or the United States that can't get to their postal service anymore because it's been eliminated, and now it's whatever, it's by drone or whatever you're doing, and you're just not that person. Well, the data doesn't lie, and the data, once it's parsed, cleaned, and separated and bundled, if you will, then that actually creates business opportunities for other people.
Yeah.
Right? So what's not to say that in that very instance, Uber says, you know what? We took a look at this consensus data here that was aggregated by across 2 million people. And we're seeing this subsection of people who actually can't get to a location. We're going to help them out.
Yeah.
Oh, and we're going to have boxes in the trunk. Maybe there's a whole different business model for them. So, much like you said before, like data is the impetus for creating something better, right? From a user design, user experience design perspective, what's the first thing you do? Well, there's a problem. I see it. Let me talk to the people using this product or using this service or in a government situation or paying taxes for that matter. Let me talk to them. Let me go to their source and see what they need and where the pain points are. I think that's great. And you could do a lot as long as the data is also governed, because it's not, you just don't want data flying out all over the place.
Oh no, we don't.
That's highly sensitive, but there is a way for governments and other organizations to actually take that and mold really interesting products and services based on it that satisfies the need of society, right? So really interesting.
Yeah, and this the thing that you mentioned about business models, I've also been thinking a lot, like how Web2 business models are actually shaping the world we're having right now. For example, so I've mentioned it on a panel session in Paris Blockchain Week, but I still will be happy to say it again because it's very dear to me. So I was thinking that initially internet was something very similar to Web3 now. It was free, it was for the community. People were doing all the stuff they thought maybe is just cool to do. And it looked like only people with lots of free time or just crazy people are actually trying to do something there. And people were so used to having free content and free stuff on the internet that when Facebook happened and Google became very big and Instagram, I remember the talks about like it moving to subscription model. And people were like, no, never, I will never pay for it. Like, Facebook is mine.
Right.
And this is like very interesting because it's almost like a public good, which, like, should be
it's almost
managed.
a right. Is it like almost a right to have it, right?
Yeah,
At
like
this point?
it should be managed in a different way. And this is also where DAOs should come,
Right.
but not in that year when it happened. So, and when they said no, so Facebook still had to have its profits to finally be profitable. So that's when they thought, okay, what do we have? We have the data, we can structure it, we can sell it. So I mean, it's controversial, but I don't blame them. What could they do?
You have to monetize somehow.
Yeah, and then the greed comes, and then the investors say, like, we want more and more
and more
because
the
it's
venture.
very
Yep.
cool. Yeah. So this is how it happened. We just didn't, like, we were not ready to pay for something like that because it was very new. And
more importantly, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
it's okay.
you didn't ask for your data. A lot of people, yes. How many people do you know that read the T's and C's, the terms and conditions of Facebook? I mean, now they do. It's like scrutinized now, but well, no one's looking. Where did that data go? To Cambridge Analytics maybe, and was thoroughly abused. That's not good. So I could see a DAO maybe working its way into terms and conditions as well.
Yeah.
And any platform for that matter.
Yeah. And so I was thinking that the business model based on advertisement, so content and advertisement, and this is how, I don't know, paid influencers happened and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And now people are getting angry about it. They say, oh, we don't want to see advertisement, we want peace and quiet, we don't want to be influenced, and etc. etc. And the only thing that should be done in order to avoid that is just to say, okay, no advertisement, no sharing the data, we switch to paying for what we have, and maybe managing the data for your needs, for how you want it to be. Because, for example, I think that Netflix should be using data of what people like and what not, because otherwise we will not see what we like, right?
Right.
So things like that should be happening, but in another way. So I'm thinking that Web3 and DAOs can also change business models, and business models is basically what frames us to behave in a certain way, because what is profitable and what is not, we will be doing what is profitable, obviously. And if something is not possible, we will not switch to something more humanitarian just because it's cool to do that. It's moral to do that, right?
Right. Which definitely is the rub with everything. Personally, I don't think, marketing, advertising should go away.
No.
Right? It offers services and products to people that they otherwise might not have thought about, right? It is about options, right? So I'll go there. But one of the examples I use all the time, and I gave a presentation on this a while ago, is Brave, the Brave browser, right? It was created by Brendan Eich, I believe. He was the founder of JavaScript. He was the guy who started it all, got that whole language going, and obviously it's a big part of everything we do every day. You have the option to put up your shields and not see anything, or you can participate in viewing advertisements, but you get rewarded. Then you could take your rewards and it's tokenized, or basic attention tokens, I think they call them, BAT. And now you can do whatever you want with them. And it's like, you know what? I want to drop some tokens on a friend of mine who has a really great podcast, or she writes these amazing, white papers or thought leadership pieces, and I want to support her. And now that's your option. You have an option to see it and not see it. And then perhaps those options become dialed in. They're more and more dialed in. You can fine tune it. There's another topic that, oh gosh, I can't wait to find a bunch of people or a couple of people to talk about. The idea of using your data. Why is my data being used and extracted from me and then used behind my back, right?
I actually have an answer.
Before you go there. But the idea of now, we are the platform, right? We, the users of the platform. My data, Daria's data, it's ours, and we know if we give a little out, we're going to get. But it's up to you as the individual on what data you give out. Maybe you don't want people to know your age, your sex, where you live, or whatever it is. You can limit all of this stuff, and it can be kind of flatline, but it'll still be used, and you'll be rewarded for it. The more detailed information or first-party information or data, that's worth its weight in gold. So you may be rewarded with whatever. Who knows? But the interesting topic, and I think it's related to a lot of what we're talking about here.
I was just thinking that I really don't like the idea of, like, why didn't we do that? Because I actually remember why. People didn't know it was valuable.
Right.
That's why we don't have rights to our data in that amount that we want to right now. So that's why the things are changing, and we had to invent all these things and Web3 and everything. We just didn't know before someone found a way to monetize it. And it's, like, this is philosophical.
Oh, yeah. Like, oh, wow. Billions upon billions of dollars are being made off of everyone's data. My name, my data, my photo, whatever it is.
Yeah.
They're cashing in on everything. And
what dogs are like.
It's a great point. And it's something that we shouldn't forget. Because I started out in the 90s when the internet was just, popping off. And, you create your first web page and, ooh, look, I got a little store and it's all fun. Back then, I was just like, let me have fun. I want to create games. I want to play games. I want to do research. And I want to go on the social media account or multiple social media accounts. And you don't really think about what the ramifications are. No one was looking. And then it's like, oh, by the way, in the tiny, tiny fine print, we use your data to sell other products or do blah, 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 blah. Whatever it may be. People get to know it, legal gets on it. I think this could be a violation of people's personal and data rights. So you're 100% right. People were just not cognizant of it. Even the people grokking the data weren't cognizant of it until a light bulb went off and said, oh, this is a good way to make money.
And I think many people didn't even know about the business model of all these platforms that they were using. So I remember many people using them, and when I asked them, do you know how they actually make money, people would say, have no idea.
Yeah, they
have many users, and basically the more users they have, the more money somehow they have. And no one, I remember asking people and no one could answer, and I'm like, this is weird how something so big can exist. And no one knows how. So this is also the thing, like people, it should be, I think it should be written in terms and conditions, like thoroughly, like we use this and this is our business model. And this is a better way to do things.
Absolutely. And I think, in the spirit of the discussion around DAOs, you and I actually touched on this before, even before the podcast, is the idea of, and you brought it up before, like, yes, we have millions and millions and millions of users, but are they the right users? Are they the right people? Are they the right audience? Are they spending money? Are they campers? Are they just whatever they're doing? To me, communities are about quality and not quantity. So I think the idea of, DAOs being able to, how should I put it? Like synthesize the quality of discussions, the quality of people, whether it's your background, where you live, your income, whatever you decide as the end user to give away as far as data, that is synthesized, and that becomes super valuable, even though, one community has 10,000 and another one has 10 million. It doesn't mean it's all good. So I think the value, and I think the idea of value is shifting, right? Certainly with you and myself over the years, what is value? There are podcasts and books and all this stuff that I actually love to dig into on the idea of what is money. What is
I love it.
money? Yeah, I know you.
This is my favorite.
Yeah. What is money, right? So the idea of, and that leads to, well, it's a source of energy that allows you to do something else, perhaps, right? Because you worked for some of that money. Now you can expend that energy in different ways. But really, is it a piece of paper? I mean, we live in the digital world for the past 30, 40, 50 years with credit cards and whatever else. It's all digital. It's just the shift of ownership. It's the shift of control, right? That freaks people out. And that's the chasm. That's the chasm people have to jump over mentally and go, well, what's the value of an NFT? Well, you own it. You can do whatever you want with it, and no one is attached to it but you. That's powerful. Now you attach business logic and other components to it, and it becomes a really utility-driven type of scenario. But people don't understand that, why are you, the most common question like years ago, and I got sick and tired of going, you really should just put a few bucks in Bitcoin. Well, what is it? Well, it's a form of energy, it's a form of this, it's a form of alternate savings, if you will. Well, why does it have value? Well, it's because the collective deems it valuable. Why is the dollar or the yen valuable? Because the collective says it's valuable. And once that starts growing, then and then market caps start to grow and volume starts to grow, and then businesses are built on it. Transactions like Wirt, that's real. That's a real economy. Now you're building real economies around something that some people would call fictitious or vapor. And it's not. I have a wallet. I can see it. Just as I can go online and see my bank account. Same thing, just a little bit more free.
Yeah, exactly. And this is why everyone is so excited about tokenomics and circular economy at the moment, because this is another way for people to dive into it and to start actually seeing how value is being shifted from one person to another, how it is being created, and how actually economy being circular works. Because people tend to think that, I have money, either I spend it, then I don't have it, or I get it back. So it's like very, it's just one action, then another action. It's not really interconnected with anything else. So yeah, I'm thinking that as, for example, if we say communities, as people have WhatsApp chats about anything they're doing together. They're like WhatsApp chats for a house or for a kindergarten or like
the groups, community groups,
right? Whatever. And they usually are heated conversations there. But what if they didn't use WhatsApp? What if they used some kind of DAO?
Yeah.
And this is how they educate themselves.
And then whatever platform you use to chit chat, Discord. We're going to use Discord for our DAO eventually. We use Discord every single day. We have internal communications, we have client communications, and then we have external communications. Anyone who wants to join the ARC DAO, come in, the ARC Discord channel. Now you can kind of segment, and you can have all your DAO people here, and you're making decisions, and you're discussing, and you're having the philosophical questions, and then, there's a client that needs help. Okay, cool, blah, blah, blah. That's one way. You could use any other. You can use any other of the platforms to plug into that. So I think that's one thing that people need to understand is like you're not abandoning your favorite communities. You're actually making them stronger and more fair.
Yeah, because it's easier to learn new tools for a cause that is dear to you personally. Right. Because I don't know, dog park, the same thing. Yeah. If you care about your dog, you will learn how to operate this thing, how to set it up, how to do voting. You will very quickly learn like what are the obstacles and how to overcome them. But if you just say, there is a lending DAO, And like, for example, you put USDC there and you get ETH, but you don't buy ETH, so it's good for you and you just get it. And people will say, I don't need neither of it.
Right.
Like, no,
Right.
I don't need USDC, I don't need ETH, I need to go for a walk, I need to go to work, I don't know, I need to read a book.
Yeah.
So that's why people are not adopting it.
Yeah.
And if you say you can actually make decisions and you can, it will be fair, and you are sure it is fair.
Yeah, and you're going to enhance your experience or your dog's experience in this in this
Right,
case, right?
Right.
It's about enhancing the experience. Tokenomics, you can go crazy with all sorts of monetization within a community. You could split revenues. You can do anything through NFTs or whatever. But ultimately, it's about making decisions for what's important to you.
Yeah, and also the last thing about DAO is it is also a way to make something happen. Because like how to, for example, indie movie making, like let's say, so we need a big budget, we need people to come together, but actually you can always say, we don't really need a big budget, we just need a crew, and we need a good idea, and we need to work on it. And if it works and we have a way to distribute it, we can actually make a better film. Like if we are, I don't know, professionals, we can make a better film than they do there. But we can't, because how do we trust each other that everyone has their fair share, and that when it is distributed and when it's at cinemas or it's in some streaming service, that I don't know, some cameraman or best boy actually gets their share through DAO. You can actually organize it through a DAO. So,
tokenization, NFTs, smart contracts. Since we're on the topic, we work with certain blockchain protocols that have. Even more interesting for me was learning how they set up their actual workforce and work economy. So developers, obviously, hot. You learn, you've got a bunch of Rust developers, and maybe they want to contribute to their project, and maybe they've selected 2 or 3 projects they're working on. Well, you get what you put in, right? So they run it through bug tests and validation testing for code. And it turns out Daria's code is hitting home runs all the time, and she's consistent, and she's spot on. Well, guess what? You're making money. And these folks don't want to be paid in cash. They don't want anything to do with it. They want either Ethereum, crypto, any kind of crypto, or they're earning said token or a stable token within that community. And it works really, really well. You performed, check. You passed this, check. You just got rewarded again and again and again. And you may be doing this across 3 projects, 4 projects, maybe even more. Who knows? The thinner you spread yourself out, the thinner your profits will be. But that economy, and it works really seamless. There's no arguments. There's no one calling HR. There's no one doing this or that. It's just, cool, man. I showed up. I produced. It's all good. See you next week. And I love that. There's all these little weird sub-economies starting. And they're not even weird to me. They make perfect sense.
Yeah, they do. It's like, this is how I thought it should be all the time, but for some reason it wasn't.
Right.
So this is what DAO and Web3 is to me. Is like, this is how it should be done, not how it was for some reason before.
Yeah. It's interesting, as I have these more and more of these conversations, and you're reading and you're like, oh, I want to, pick a platform for myself or start this or that. You realize that it actually is the gateway to true democracy.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It actually is. And you start to, for me, the blockchain journey, the Web3 crypto journey for me was actually learning in reverse. So you start to read about Ethereum and wow, this blows my mind, and Bitcoin and the cypherpunks and Satoshi Nakamoto, and this is all exciting and it sounds sci-fi. And part of it is. But ultimately, you start to have to go back and go, what is money, right? How did people in the 1800s or kingdoms in the 1500s, how did they rule the people? And then you start to see, and you go through history, and it's like, oh, it's all about control. And that's okay in certain situations, but for me, it was learning in reverse. So once you start, like, I always had my nose pointed at highest tech. How do you use it? What can it do for me? Can it improve this and that? And then you realize, oh, once it becomes like super, financial or DeFi in that world, you have to kind of go back and look at what has been controlling society, what has been doing good by society, what has been doing bad by society. So to me, it actually is the impetus for the first real, true democratic or democracy, if you will, within the masses. It's interesting.
Yeah, I would love to see that. And yeah, actually, your question, like, what is money? This is another story, like how Vert started, because we were in our first office, and I think we just decided that we are doing the new best fiat on-ramp, which is for the future. This is what we had, and that's all. And we were in one of the rooms at the whiteboard, and I was saying, like, okay, guys, to George and our finance specialist, I was saying, so let's discuss this. What is money? And they're like, no, we need to discuss how we do this and this. And I'm like, no. Let's really answer me. What is money? Why do we need it? What is the use case? And when they actually started, like, brainstorming with me, it was very interesting. Like, we found out that, I don't know, some of the misconceptions about how we can go without or whatever is like was not really true. Like, for example, we say, oh, like, it's more native to just exchange things. And I was saying, oh, you cannot really exchange your house for 30 haircuts, 1 ton of grain, I don't know, 2 nice rocks that you found on the road. So it's this kind of trades just are not possible. So it's not true that money is evil or something. It's a normal thing, to like a normal way. You need to have some kind of measurement system, right? And the other thing is that if you really work hard and then you don't want to work for some time and you move to another country, for example, how do you prove to a nice restaurant owner in Italy that you worked hard and you can actually have your cocktail here? You can't.
Right.
So I totally don't agree that it's evil, or we don't want, we are against, saving money, or like there is all this talks at the moment that you cannot have your money stored into big volumes or something like that. So no, actually it's a good thing. We just need to listen to each other and do the right decisions, understand the odds, and it will be fine, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, once you jump the chasm, you start to understand the importance of this technology, right? It forces people back to go, oh my gosh, this is how we've been doing it for forever. And it actually doesn't sit right with me. Now that you've been introduced to something really interesting that could fundamentally change society. And I 100% agree with you, Daria. Money is necessary. It's just going to look different. That's all. It's going to flow differently. And I think people will have more options and opportunities. Things within the financial world will be a little bit more ironed out and more democratized. And I think DAOs are a big part of all of this, and from the dark park to major investments and perhaps major government decisions and programs. So I'm going to keep digging. I know you're going to keep digging.
I will.
And this has been fascinating. Any last words as we wrap up a little bit, you know?
I think that my last words would be, when I started learning about cryptocurrency, the most difficult thing was to actually visualize how it all works, because what you find is, this block is mined and then this happens and all these technicalities, but you cannot really understand, so what miners do, or how this happens, like where is it stored, like how
proof of work, proof of stake.
Yeah, and I had to I think I had to reread it and write myself the concept to understand at least 30 times before I actually grasped it. Like, it was such a difficult journey. So I wouldn't be snobbish about people who are reluctant to learn about DAOs and Web3, because the only thing you can find on the internet, like mostly what you can find, is technicalities. When it is already being used, people are discussed, oh, what protocol are you using? Oh, how you do that? Oh, what is the fee? What are you lending? What are you getting? Or and what about this? And you just hear all the buzzwords. You don't understand what's going on. So I think it is very important to have sometimes to have conversation like this, when we kind of dissect it and go back to like the simplify the equation and look at it in a very simple manner so that everyone understands. So this is the transaction, this is the interaction, this is the decision, and this is we coming together to make a decision. That's it, and vote for it.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And it took, I knew it was important years ago, like in 2013. So I got involved, and it was minor investments at the time, and just tinkering and playing with it. And it was about getting a wallet. And what does it mean to have a digital wallet? And what is this currency? And you're like, okay, you put it in, you forget about it for a while, and then you start to research it and you start to understand. And to your point, it's not something that I don't care how smart you are, what your IQ is, what you do for a living, you're not going to get it in one conversation. You're not going to get it from an online tutorial or from someone on YouTube. You have to actually study it a little bit
and use it.
Perfect. Yes. You got to use it. You got to touch and feel and see, oh, I just sent money across the world to Europe to a friend for something, and I paid a fraction of a penny to do it. And it was like that.
Yeah.
With no one looking, and it's great. And I think that's the important part. And I think that's what turns people off sometimes. Like, it's too much. I don't need to I don't need to go back to college to learn how to manage money. Well, no, there's a lot of people who are into it right now that are figuring out the road signs, laying the pavement for the superhighway. But you do need to spend some time with it. And you do have to understand psychologically, philosophically, how this potentially could change the world. And it will, and it is. So Daria, for our listeners, hit up Wirt, check them out. They have a great little and very simple little demo, which I love. Just shows you on and off, like on-road, fiat on-road, and crypto, here we go. From there, you get your wallets. There, you start sending money back and forth. Maybe it's to your friend just to try out, or whatever it may be, or you're actually buying products. This has been a fantastic discussion, and I've been really meaning to get more people into the studio, so I'm glad you joined us. And I don't think this discussion is going to end here. I think we're going to, definitely with you in the future for sure. Whether it be remote or in person again in New York, because we would love to see you again.
Yeah, we'll be glad.
Yeah. And we need to have these conversations, the world does, and they need to tune in.
Yeah, thank you so much. That has been very interesting for me, and it was very important for me to also share some of my thoughts, because I usually am just working on concepts, not really sharing much with the audience. So yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and look, you just keep bringing up more and more stuff. Get out there, ask questions, have conversations with people, and start learning. Yeah. That's how you learn any new hobby or new work thing. You have to kind of get involved. Once you start reading and listening, you're going to learn, and you're going to love it, and it's going to be very, very important to do that. So, thank you again, Daria.
Thank you.
We look forward to having you and George back on for different topics, and thanks for going deep with us.
Thanks.